Politicians are heading back to their constituencies for the summer. Yesterday, the spring sitting wrapped up, and it was an emotional last couple of days. For more, we're joined by CBC Saskatchewan's political affairs reporter, Adam Hunter. Adam, what can you tell us about the intensity of this last week?
Well, Sam, had been building for a number of weeks now, and typically the spring sitting, it's longer than the fall sitting. The politicians, the weather's getting nicer, although not today, but they want to get back to their constituencies, as you mentioned, and they're really tired of seeing the other side arguing about the same things over and over. They can kind of see what questions are coming and what answers are coming, and that came to a head this week with a pair of ejections from the House, and that was a real rarity for Saskatchewan. The last time that happened was 2017, and there really hasn't, to anyone's memory, been two in one day. They were about an hour apart. One was Doyle Vermette. He was the second person to be asked to leave when he refused to apologize for using unparliamentary language. Vermette got very emotional when the government on Tuesday declined to go for his pitch for an all-party committee on suicide prevention, mental health, and addictions. And then following day, he was pointed right at the Premier and the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, Everett Hindley. He used unparliamentary language. He was asked to apologize about an hour later by the Speaker. He said he could not, and for that, he was removed. Right after Vermette asked his question, at the very end of question period, independent MLA Nadine Wilson for Saskatchewan Rivers, who wasn't asking a question, was heckling from her seat. She was pretty persistent, and she too used unparliamentary language. She was asked to apologize. You get 3 strikes and you're out. That's the rule in the chamber. And she did not apologize. So she too was asked to leave. And it was a really, heated day, but it's something that I think those emotions have been building, Sam, for a while, for both Ms. Wilson and Mr. Vermette, for obviously very different reasons. But it was something that still, for them not to apologize, that came as a bit of a surprise.
There's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of political theater that can be distracting from what they're actually trying to achieve. What was actually achieved over the last few months?
We asked the Premier this yesterday, and he said, the government's proud of its budget. He says that, they're cut into their deficit, that it's, better projection than they expected even last year, coming off into a different stage of the pandemic, that the government's projecting higher than expected resource revenues. Now, the other thing the Premier pointed to was health spending, mental health and addiction spending, but also healthcare spending. That was a big focus, especially early on in the sitting, where there was a lot of talk about surgical wait times, about ER wait times, about retaining and training, and to specifically have healthcare workers stay in places that are maybe hard to recruit in rural Saskatchewan, for example. So that's been one of the focuses of the government. I also want to mention the increase in the minimum wage. Now, Saskatchewan has the lowest minimum wage in the country right now at $11.80 an hour. That's going up to $13 in October, rising to $15 in 2 years. That's something that the labor groups and the opposition have asked for. They say that that's a welcome change. Saskatchewan will still be the second lowest in October when it does raise. And those groups are saying that 15 will be too low in a couple of years when it gets up to that point. But that's something we didn't expect from the government. The other thing that the government is going to point to, I think, is a bill passing, which is a controversial bill because the opposition was trying its best to try and block it or get it pushed or get it changed, was Bill 70, which is the plan to revamp security inside the legislature. That passed this week. So that was another one that got a lot of attention in the last few weeks.
All right. Thanks, Adam.
You're welcome.